So we'll make a start. So welcome to week 3 of Revit Architecture Fundamentals. So just to cover over what we did last week. So we went through the basic drawing tools. We drew that building, our simple building or whatever we want to call it. Well, we went through pretty much all the tools, the drawing tools at least, I should say, in the project. So we're going to keep using these. Last week's the foundation of the building, and now we're just going to keep building on those skills and using those skills that we learnt last week. So we're going to hit on those skills heaps because they're what you use to draw a building. So tonight we're going to go through setting up levels and grids. So we'll probably get through that and hopefully about the next half hour, and then we're going to get into loading a DWG file into a project and start drawing a project that way. And then hopefully tonight we'll get to putting in doors and windows, and then next week we'll put a floor and a roof on it and a ceiling sort of thing. So you guys can get used to loading in families and that sort of stuff. So does anyone have any questions from last week? We'll sing out if I'm going too fast as well. I find it very hard to get out of work rush mode to Tafe, slow it down, break it down sort of thing, particularly after the day I've had today of having 1,000 amendments to get out. So basically what I'll get you guys to do now is I'll get you guys to start a new project. I'm going to choose the architectural template. The other thing as well, under the Revit short exercises, exercise 3A and 3B are there as exercises you can use to set up levels and set up grids. I don't tend to show you these in the class because they're set up one, commercially, and two, a very American style. So if I go back to that levels. As bad as that was probably a bit far. So this sort of, it's not very legible, but like floor 6, floor 7, floor 8, roof, parapet. So what they must do in America, I have never bothered to research this, and I don't know any American drafters or architects, is they just draw one level, and that's why when we draw a level, we get a ceiling plan and a floor plan and a structural plan. It's all associated to the one level. In Australia, we tend to draw levels so we draw a level for our floor level, and we also draw a level for our ceiling level. Again, I don't know why we do that, particularly when the software is set up to do it. It's probably just because that's how we've always done it, and we've had to make Revit adapt. So there's a few issues when you do it this way, is you end up with a floor plan, a ceiling plan, and a structural plan for each level you draw, unless you untick something, and it does clog up your project browser. So you've only got, makes it a bit harder to read when it's like this. So if you guys want to have a run through that in your own time, feel free, but we're going to run through setting up levels for probably a double story tonight, and then it's the same practice for a single story. And then we'll just put some grids in the project, and then we'll jump onto the DWG, because I'm sure you all want to draw a house and not all the basic stuff, or all the setup stuff. So it does help if you have levels set up in your template, because then you don't have to do this process again. You can always delete them out if you set up for a double story all the time. You can always delete the top 4 out if you're only drawing a single story. It makes it a bit easier than putting levels in. So if you've got that architectural template project open, if you guys just want to go to your north elevation in your project browser, so you'll notice that the architectural template also always gives you 2 levels. If I just start a new project, you guys don't have to. I just want to show you what the construction or the structural template. Must be the construction template that does it. So see how the construction template automatically gives you a bottom of footing, top of slab, top of foundation wall, level 1 and level 2 levels straight away. That's generally how I picked that you guys have used the wrong template when you started to draw something, because you have all these random levels that don't mean anything to us. Well, to me as an architectural craftsperson, I don't really care what the top of the foundation wall or top of the footing is, sort of thing. So you can just delete them, they're fine, and you can get them back as well if you want them. So under the architecture tab, they are called a datum. So down the not quite the very end, but pretty close to the end, you've got level and grid. So you guys just want to select the level button. You notice you get a few options here as well. So under options, you got make plan view. So does anyone want to have a guess what happens if you untick make plan view?
Cross-section plane?
Sorry?
Does it turn into a cross-section plane?
No. Let me get that open still. So that's not what I wanted. So see how we've got blue, 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 and black at the top, which is our parapet, which is really, it's hard to read on the screen for me, so I'm sure it's even harder for you guys. And then you've also got down the bottom, you must have basement and top of footing levels. So basically, if you untick make plan view and draw a view, so drawing the levels is just as simple as it's a 2-click process. So click one side and then the other. It's a black level. You'll also notice in your project browser you have nothing else that aligns to level, nothing else that says level 2. So it's a non-story level, so it doesn't give you a floor plan. So it's just a level. So you might use this for window head height to have like that at 2150 or something like that, or a parapet level or a ridgeline level to say it's 8 meters, 8.5 meters off the ground or something like that. So you might use it to not get any floor plans out of it, but you just want it to reference to. So to do that, and then the other option you've got here is you've got plan view types. So you can create, when you create a level generally, it creates a ceiling plan, floor plan, and structural plan. You can unhighlight, if you just want to create a floor plan, you can unhighlight the other two. If you don't want to create any plans as well, or you have to have one highlighted there. So I'm just going to create level 3 here. And you notice over my project browser, I get a level 3. My level marker is blue. How do you...
Yeah, I can see one free.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Sorry for running late.
No, that's okay. So the blue means it's a hyperlink to something or it references another view. So we've got level 3 there in our floor plans, but you'll also notice that it doesn't come up in our ceiling plan, or structural plans doesn't come up. So if I create another level now and I have them all highlighted, you'll notice I now get structural plans here and I get level 4 come up. So if you guys want to have a bit of a play around with that, I'll just show you quickly before you do that. So to rename a level, click on the level and then click on the name, and then you can say roof, let's say, for instance. It'll come up with this dialog box to say, would you like to rename the corresponding views? So if I rename the corresponding views, it renames the levels in my project browser. and it will always rename the names and rename the like titles in the elevation. I tend to say no, because it can get a little bit. Your project browser can get pretty confusing. So I tend to, well, ideally, if I was starting a job from scratch, I would have like 00, 01, 02, so it flowed logically in my project browser, but on my floor plan, I don't want to have 001, 01, 02, 03. You want to have just like ground floor, finished floor level, ground floor, finished ceiling level. So if you guys want to have a play putting a couple of levels in, and then I'll just quickly, while you guys are doing that, set this up for what you guys want to copy. Oh.
And then you just adjusted your.
This one, let me call this level 1. Is this level 1 missed something?
So we click on the level. Yeah. Oh, it looks like so level 1 might already exist.
Yeah.
So it won't allow you to duplicate the name of.
Yeah, so can I cancel those?
You can rename those.
Well, where does it exist?
That's a good question.
So I said no, but did I miss
enter.
something that you said?
Cancel. Yeah, so that one is level. That's level 1. That's level 1 is ground floor. Yeah, so level 1 must be ground floor.
Yeah, I've renamed them. Doesn't it?
So if you tick no.
Oh, okay. It's only going to do it in this view.
It's only going to do it in this one and not your project browser.
Can you say to click?
Yeah, but I wouldn't. So I would name, rather than naming that level 1, I would go like finish ceiling level, ground floor, finish ceiling level, or something like that.
This one?
No, just level 2. Yeah.
Looks promising.
Yeah, if you got one now, you should be fine.
Oh, awesome.
Hopefully.
It's like a miracle.
It's only because I did it.
Oh, that's what I said. I was reading. Thank you.
Five, 4 or 5. 4 is the minimum.
Oh, have you got the thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to put that next. No, that's okay, just 4. Yeah, 4 blue. Cool. So, we're going to set our levels up now as I've got them on the screen-ish, at least the ceiling height. So, before you move that, you might name that ground floor finished ceiling level, and upper floor. So to move your levels up and down, so you notice you've got a number in here as well. So you've got number, so 20. I've put my finished ceiling level to 2730. At the moment, my upper floor finished floor level is 4730. That's just so I can access the text easily without showing you guys the next step. It's set at 4730. My upper floor finished ceiling level is set at 5910. Probably the easiest way to get around working out the mental maths is we go up to our quick access toolbar and to dimension. And you can pick dimension by picking up the levels. If you click on the line, and that puts in the dimensions. So you get a dimension string. And then we probably didn't cover it last week. So dimensions are just a byproduct of where a wall, a window, a level are in the 3D space. So I get lots of people will try and click on the dimension here to move something. You need to click on what you want to move. So in this instance, we would want to move our ceiling level, ground floor finished ceiling level down. So you need to click on what you need to move, want to move I should say, and then click on it down, click on the element and then change the dimension to, I might go 25 or 2430, rather than clicking on the dimension. So it takes a little bit to wrap your head around clicking on the element to move and then the dimension. And then the other thing people do a lot of is they will click on let's say we've clicked our ceiling level, and then they'll click on this 2300 because we want the next one to be 450. And they go, well, hang on, that moved. You need to move on to the next object you want to move. Once you've got the finished ceiling level in place, you move on to your floor level and you move that down. So it sort of has a stack-on effect where you just keep moving through a building. This is going to make sense heaps when you start drawing a job from scratch and you have some dimensions. So I'm going to make mine 2730, and then I'm going to make my mid-floor gap 450, and my ceiling height will be 2730. So if you guys want to do that, and I'll copy that. So you can delete the dimension we've got there after as well. So you can try and do it by the dimensions, like working out the mental maths, particularly if you start moving your projects up to AHD levels or 100 from the TBM. The maths can get a bit annoying, I find. So we want to run through the dimension again. So dimensions up here in the quick access toolbar. It's also available under annotate, and it's the align dimension. It's also the keyboard shortcut DI. And then to get the dimension, you've got to pick an element. So I'm going to pick that wall there, that level there, sorry. And then I'm going to go up to pick my finished ceiling level. So it's easier if you do a string. So what I see, not so much from you guys, but from external students that I teach as well, is they'll go like this sort of thing and end up drawing 3-dimension lines, or if you can imagine for a small house, all of those dimensions will be individual. So it's heaps easier to alter things if you do one string like that, like this. If you accidentally click anywhere, not quite the dimension, it's easy to fix. If you select the dimension and go edit witness lines, you can add or remove points in the string as well. So obviously dimensions are what is generally required to get something built, so they're pretty important to be able to show in Revit. Unfortunately, we haven't got big 3D printers that can print an entire house yet, that just take the model out and just print it at 1:1. Unfortunately. I'm sure one day we'll get there.
How do you click out of the tool when you
Oh,
get to the top one?
yeah. So if you
it just stays on there.
So if you want to end your string, you just need to click into blank space. Sorry, I should have pointed that out.
Oh, okay.
I find it really annoying when I'm trying to dimension a brickwork at work, because the dimensions will pick up the hatch pattern as well. So if I don't click into blank space, it'll pick up the hatch, and then it'll have, be two random dimensions, and I'm like, I just want one. But
how do you get to the edit witness ones?
so you've got to select the dimension first, and then it comes up. So some of these tools only come up when they're when the elements are selected that they are under. So edit witness lines is only under dimension.
So I select the dimension line that I've created.
Yep.
This one here.
Yep. If you escape out of the tool, so you're still in the dimension tool.
Yeah.
Yep. If you select the dimension now.
This one.
Yep.
I didn't do that before.
Because you're in the tool probably.
Oh, okay. And then I can edit it.
Yeah. So you got to move on to the next one. Yep. Yeah, that's fair. I'll just show you how to so does anyone notice an issue now that we might have that our two levels are only 450 mil apart? That this is not very legible. You have two numbers over the top of each other and a bit of text sort of over the top of each other. So this is one of those things that as much as I zoom in, it's not going to get any bigger. So you need to take my word for it that it's there. If you can't see it on your screen, let me know, and I'll try and find it. It does like to hide a bit of the time. So if you select your level, some of you may have already found this by walking around the room. There is a little zigzag elbow thing here. If you select that zigzag, it actually breaks your level line. And then it's got two blue dots that allow you to adjust the line. So there's a bit of an idiosyncrasy here. So the first dot coming off your level can't go past the second dot, and vice versa. I tend to be someone that likes to set my levels up like that, with a clear break. They are a little bit annoying. They don't snap exactly, and you can't copy and paste the layout to multiple levels. So it does suck that. That does suck a little bit. So if you guys just want to practice that with your two levels here. And then the other thing as well, if you've drawn your level from right to left instead of left to right, you might have your level head marker on the left-hand side and not the right-hand side. That's perfectly fine because it's still just a level. If you click on your level, you may notice that on the left, or for example, on my left side, my level 5 one has a tick in it, and on the right side, it has a box without a tick. So I tick that box, click on it, and tick that box, which I get a level on that side. So you can also turn the levels off if you just want to have a line across the thing. computer wanted to play ball tonight, that'd be great. You can do it. It just mine doesn't want to do it tonight.
I do, yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure. It's just if you just actually click
So
on that.
not having a level marker can be good if you just want to have a window head height and chuck a dimension up to that and not have it say 27 or 2150 or something like that. Or if you have an overlooking height that you need to have your windows above, you can just have a level in there without any tags on it and just chuck a dimension to it and say overlooking. So at least if it's a level, it'll show up on all 4 elevations, and you might just need to hide it on your front, your street elevation, rather than drawing 3 detail lines on the elevations and having it as overlooking. The benefit of doing your window head height that way is what I'll probably show you probably maybe tonight, at the end of tonight or next week, is you can lock your windows to a level and take them up and down and they all move together, rather than having to set each window to being a height of 2150 or 2322 or whatever window head height you want to choose. So for me, because I have I unselected make plan view for my upper floor level plan, I don't have a floor plan at the moment available to draw on, which in hindsight is probably a bad thing that I chose that one, but it allows me to show you how to create floor plans from your levels. Just because it doesn't have a floor plan associated to it doesn't mean it's never going to have one. If you want to go to view, and does everyone have a guess where you might go? What the next step would be? If you look at the bottom tabs. So what do you want to do? You want to create something? Or you want to create a floor plan? So the next step you'd go would be graphics, presentation, create, or sheet composition, or windows. Would be create. And then yours may look a little bit different to mine. Yours may all appear like these ones across the screen. I think it's got something to do with the resolution of my screen. So you can go plan views. So you can create floor plans, reflected ceiling plans, structural plans. Plan region is something we'll talk about in a bit, and area plans. So if I wanted to create a floor plan for levels, I click that dialog box or that box, and it comes up with another dialog box. Because I haven't got at the moment any upper or floor level plans available, it will only come up with one unless I click do not duplicate existing views, in which case it will come up with all the levels in the project. And then you can click OK there. And if I close that and go back to my east elevation, you'll notice that link that's gone from blue to black, from black to blue. And I also have what is a level 5. I'm not sure what level it is. A level, upper floor level. So you can see, and then if you want to rename things in the project browser, it's a simple case of right-clicking and renaming. And then you can just say, this would be 03, and no. And if I wanted to rename my ground floor, I can rename that 001. So you can see here how having a bit of a number thing will actually sort it quite well until you get over 10, and then you sort of, you might have to use triple digits or something like that to get around it stacking all the ones like 11 and then sort of thing. But generally for the projects that you guys, assume you guys are going to work on, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. If you work in an office at the moment, you may have naming conventions and things that you guys like to use. At my previous job, there was really what you wanted to do. At Metricom, we don't really do anything other than name the ground floor and upper floor plan, or first floor plan. So that's levels. So we're going to go through this again when we start our project. So levels is something that you do when you start a project. So it's because the levels are what you use to set the parameters to where the walls are drawn and how far the windows are off the level and how far a ceiling might be offset a level or a floor might be offset a level or a column is offset a level. So the levels really drive what you actually produce drawing wise. So I'm going to quickly run through grids. Does anyone do commercial stuff? Yeah. So grids are pretty much the same thing. So if you guys just open up your... Oh, actually, before we go on to grids, I'm going to show you... So that's my east elevation. If I go to my west elevation, you'll notice that we haven't done the dog leg or the zigzag or added the elbow. There's an easy way to do this. So you go to your whatever elevation you've done, you've broken the elbow on it. If you select the level and hit propagate extents that comes up in the up on the ribbon, this will ask you what datums you want to apply it to in a parallel view. So instead of having to do the break elbow 4 times in each elevation, you only have to do it twice. Also means it copies the same break across the 2 elevations rather than it might be slightly different on if you do it slightly differently on different ones. Again, it depends on how OCD you are, on how accurate you want to get those on each page, or how OCD your drafting manager might be. So I click west there, click OK. If I open my west elevation, I get the same break I had on my east elevation. So that can be quite handy. The other thing as well is you've got a box down the bottom to say only show views with the same scale as current. So if you tick that and you draw a section at 1 to 50, it won't let you. So if I go to my north elevation, break the elbow, go propagate extents. See how I get my section view in that because the section cuts through east to west. East to west, is that right? So I could do the same. If I tick that box, my section must be at 1 to 100 too. Yep. So see how that section marker there's got the upper floor level zigzagged as well. Was everyone able to find that elbow zigzag line and do it? It can be a bit hard to find sometimes. It's one of those ones that you've got to know that's there. So you select the level. Yep. Copy it says. Yep. And then you can apply it to if you zigzagged it or. Yeah. So you can do it north to south and east to west. You just can't do it to 1 and apply it to all 3. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the zigzag. See
The what, sorry?
as much as it is looking at the bigger.
It's the other thing where it is the zigzag.
That thing there. Yeah. It's hard to see. Particularly like the closer you zoom in, the harder it gets because the lines get bigger too. So, select the level. Yeah. You'll probably figure it out there. Yeah, I know, right? The more you
I thought I'm doing something wrong because I haven't seen that.
but the more you zoom in, the thicker the line gets, so the smaller, the harder it is to see.
How did you get that plan view? You had
You can double click on the. Oh, that was just a section.
a section.
You might not have that if you use the wrong template.
Oh, okay, got ya.
Propagate extent. Zigzag. Yep, click on that one. Okay,
I've got no idea.
and then you can
Just
start.
Finish ceiling level.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
To show you there, we're going to go through setting up project to the construction there anyway.
Can you take me back through that ceiling, finish ceiling level? Yeah, you did.
Which one?
You did a floor plan.
Oh, I can do that again later. I'll keep going and I'll run through it again
Okay.
in a bit.
I'm lost.
Yeah. So if you guys just want to open up a floor plan, doesn't matter which one, preferably like a floor level plan and not a ceiling level. But the other thing I get you guys to do is generally when you guys see it a lot, and I occasionally do it myself, so even experienced users do it. Minimize the ceiling floor plans because you might see level 1 there. Let's say open that up. Cool. Where's everything gone? It's quite an easy thing to do. So I generally just minimize that so you can't see it as an option. Because you come down here, you're looking at something, and you'll scroll up, and you're like, cool, there's the first one I see. I'm going to click on that and start drawing, and you go, where's all my model gone? It's there. It's just set up a bit like it's just the view's set up differently for ceiling plans. So if I go back to architecture for grids, so grids can be placed in floor plan or section, elevation or section, I guess, for that matter, as where levels can only be placed in elevation or section. So grids are really just the structural grid. Again, it's a 2-click process. So first click places the first bit, second click places the bubble. The beauty about grids is if you go to another level, the grids come up as well. So they go through the building. If you go to an elevation, you get your grids in the elevation as well straight away. So you shouldn't mess that up if you're drawing grids. I've never drawn a grid in CAD, but the spacing, if you change it in the floor plan, will automatically update in the elevation straight away without any human error. You don't have to remember to change the spacing if the structural engineer said, oh, we need 5-meter spacings for whatever reason. So grids again is pretty easy. You'll notice as well with the levels, if you delete one, they're not it'll just keep going up in number. It won't go back and renumber something that you've missed or deleted. So if I want to do some horizontal grids on the ground or on a level, so normally you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then A, B, C down. So exactly like a street directory, go to grid reference A12 to find your street. So get around, so Revit will just keep going in the numbers that it's given. So if you draw one horizontally and select that and say A, it will remember and go B, C, D. The other way as well. And the grids are the same, so you can click the empty box on the other side and put the little bubble head on the other side as well, if you want. If you're having a little bit more luck than me. You can also do a multi-segment grid, which allows you to do some funky shapes. That takes you into sketch mode, which we haven't discussed yet. So you can do a grid. You can do weird grids. Again, I've never seen a grid like that, but you probably have.
If you use section lines through things, surely in a similar way, would you use them as a cut section line?
There's a tool for that though.
Oh, is it? Right.
But if you wanted something curved, I'm not sure. Like you're probably the one industry that I'm not too sure on why you might use curved grids. I'm assuming for that big bridge that goes up to Adis Road that's got a radius on it, you might use a grid to line up all the columns on it, maybe. So does everyone sort of grasp the levels and grids? We're going to go through that again. So I'm going to get you guys to just shut this one. You don't need to save it. It's just to go through. The other thing up here on the quick access toolbar, you have close inactive windows. So if you're like me and get a bit click happy and opening up heaps of views, and I probably haven't got that many views. So I have, quite a few views open now. I tend to just click that and it goes back to one, takes it back to one view open. If you are using a previous release of the software prior to 2019, it's closed hidden windows because they used to open up as separate windows and then just pile on top of each other. The other thing I'll show you while we're doing this, or I'll just do it and then you guys can have a bit of a play later. I don't tend to use it so much these days because you can now drag the windows out of Revit. But if you go to View and Tile Windows, Tile Views, is if you had a bigger screen than what I've got, you can actually have a floor plan and an elevation and a section open at one time and effectively accomplish one thing using 3 different views to do it, sort of thing. Or you can have your 3D view open and that. So I actually don't tend to use that very much these days, seeing I can just drag a window outside of the Revit screen, but it is there. It was quite helpful up until they released this version. And then you've also got tab views there as well, which takes it back to being tab views. So no. So if you guys can jump onto the Learn site, if you haven't already. So basically, this project, exercise 4A and B, I don't really run through in the class. If you guys want to do it at home as extra either reference or extra work, like task learning and things like that. So this has got import. We're going to load a DWG file into a project, and then basically you draw the shell of that hotel we looked at the first week, and you add the columns right up to the level, and I think you will have needed to complete exercise 3A and 3B before you do that. So if you guys can download to your desktop or just download at the moment, under AutoCAD linking exercise, we have our floor plan DWG file, which you'll need to have for reference later. Our entry door with single sidelight family, .rfa, just save that. Our internal cavity slider.rfa, just save that file as well. And our laundry door and window combo.rfa family. So you can just save those 4 files, to your desktop or USB drive if you've got one, or USB stick. So if you haven't got a USB, you can save it to your desktop, but you'll need to use the same computer next week to access it. So has everyone got that saved?
No.
No. I'm going to give you a bit more time.
Do you have to upgrade it first before it?
Don't open the families. Just save them to your desktop or USB drive. So if it comes up as open, just save as, save file. If you're using Firefox.
It's just going to the arrow. I can't get it onto my
Yep.
drive.
You might be there.
Should be able to go show all downloads.
Yeah.
And then it should be on. You can just and then you go open folder and you can copy it across to your drive. So this is a sort of not finished model of the house. That we're going to draw. So it's pretty simple. So there's the floor plan. It's a pretty simple small house. So just to show you what you're going to end up drawing, I guess. I don't think I put any colors on this model apart from what's in the program. So it's pretty basic. The roof's got no color or structure. It hasn't even got a ceiling actually. So that's what we're going to produce probably by this time next week, hopefully. So we're going to put some windows in, some doors. I always have to remember what family is which. So yeah, if you guys want to start a new project, and we're going to use the architectural template. And do you want to have a guess at what we're going to do first?
Set up levels.
Yep. So if you guys want to open up an elevation, doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to be easy here. We're just going to use the 2 levels in the project at the moment. We'll get to adding some more in a bit. So we're just going to you can rename your level 1 ceiling level. And here tick yes to renaming all the corresponding views. So you'll notice in your project browser that ceiling level's gone above ground floor. So you could go into your project browser and number them if you want. So right click and rename. And no, and right click and rename 02. So Revit will always have a site plan drawn up for you, sort of. So it's not really drawn up for you. It's just a view that they've assigned with a few different parameters. So it's your site. It generally shows these. There's a triangle. Yeah. So we have our project base point is one of them. So the circle is our project base point and the triangle is our survey point. You don't need to worry about them too much. sort of thing. So it's got a site plan, and then it's also got a true north plan for when you assign an actual bearing and a real world location to your job. So when you get down to doing perspectives and shadow diagrams and things like that, you can actually specify the location as like, Tafe here, whatever the address is, and it'll actually show the shadows based on what they actually are here. So I tend to always try and check Google Maps to see if they've got a timestamp on their aerial shot, just to make sure the shadows line up with about what you think they should, just in case. But it's pretty good. I got no idea how people do it in CAD to show councils shadow overshadowing plans and things like that.
It's at the state.
Sorry?
It's at the state. It's not as accurate as that. It's like Adelaide.
I got no idea how you do it in CAD. It's not something I ever learnt or needed to learn. So
Work it out the old-fashioned way and then draw it.
yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So it's much more. I guess it's more accurate, but when it's accurate, it's harder to fudge if it looks really bad. Speaking from experience. So we're going to open up our north level. So we're just going to say 2730 for our ceiling level. And that's pretty much it for this at the moment. We're going to add 2 more levels a bit later. But to get drawing and to get going, we're just going to set our ceiling level to 2730. Now ground floor, actually we're going to make our ground floor 200. And then our finished ceiling level 2930. And then if you dimension that, also with these temporary dimensions, you'll also get that dimension sort of logo or picture. If you click on that, it'll make temporary dimensions a permanent one. So our floor level is going to be 200 mil above bench level, and then our ceiling level is 2730 above that.
Do we still say no to rename corresponding?
In this instance, say yes, and then rename the project browser separately and say no. Sort of removes renaming the project browser step a little bit and working out where you are. The issue is you can probably tell that your project browsers end up getting pretty full of different views, particularly if you're doing a full set of architectural working drawings for a niche builder or something like that, where you'll have a separate plan for your floor finishes, maybe a separate plan, or if you're doing interior design, you have a separate plan for your floor, an FFE plan, is that what they call it? Furniture fit out plan? Furniture fit out equipment or whatever it is. And then if you've got to show fire egress distances and you have another plan, and you can end up having 5 or 6 floor plans of the same plan. I'll touch on how to do that next week. Or later tonight, depending on how we go. But it's easy to do it. So if you guys just want to open up our ground floor plan now, you can do that by double clicking on the link of the level. So if you guys want to go to the Insert tab, so this is where we can. So we can link. There's a couple of things we can link. There's a couple of things we can import. And this is also where I come to load families, which I'll touch on a bit later. So you can link a Revit file, another Revit file into a project. So if you're doing 2 houses side by side, or if you want to do a perspective and you have another model that looks okay, you can put that in the background. Or if you have a model that looks crap, you can put that in the background to make your house look better. You can also link IFC files. IFC is the international language of BIM, so that means you can take a model that's done in Rhino and put it into Revit. You can take a model that's done in ArchiCAD and put it into Revit. The 2 times I've used it, I haven't found it very useful. You can link CAD files, which we're going to do tonight. You can also link topography files, so if your surveyor is up and coming and doing surveys and producing a topo surface in Revit to give to the clients. you can link that directly into your file. You can also do DWF markups. Never used it. Decals. So if you want to put, let's say, an image on a render, so like a Subaru logo on a car dealership render or something like that. That's how you do it. Point cloud model. So does everyone know what a point cloud model is? So basically, what's the name can probably explain it better than I can. Stick a LiDAR camera in this room. It does a 3D scan of lots of millions of points in this room. It gives you a model. I'll find a video later and show it to you. It's really cool. And then you can start modeling things in this room without actually having drawn the external walls, sort of thing. So they did this building in point cloud. So they've got all the structural steel, the existing structural steel, I should say, and the existing structure as a point cloud model. Then modelled all the crane swings in virtual reality before they actually came out here and put a crane through a beam or something like that. So they made sure they could do all the swings to build this building in 3D before they actually did it, which is pretty cool. Coordination model. So coordination model is probably a Navisworks model. So Navisworks dumbs down a Revit file into its basic structure, because if anyone's seen a services or structural model, services is a bit ridiculous. If you have a look up here, there's probably not a computer these days yet still that can't run a Revit model with everything loaded in it. It'll just lag, and you'll probably have a pile of smoke coming out of your compute tower or something like that. So Navisworks dumbs it down, and they actually run clash detection sort of thing. And then you've got manage links up here. You've also got import CAD. So the difference between linking CAD and importing CAD is pretty important. So you want to have an idea why you might link a CAD file as opposed to importing a CAD file?
The link file is sort of like the ghost file. You don't actually have it as part of your file. It's the same way you work with reference files.
Yeah, so reference xref in CAD sort of thing. So that's a pretty good explanation. So also the other explanation is, or the other reason is, if there's changes that are likely to happen to your CAD file, you would link it so you can reload those changes. So if you have a consultant working in CAD still and you're using Revit and you want to make sure you miss some things, link it. If you import it, it is importing the file into your project, and then you have to delete it and re-import it again. You can't reload it. So if there's no changes likely, so if the boss has drawn up something in CAD for you and going, here you go your hardest in Revit, you'd probably just import it, because that means if you do take the file to a different computer, or you don't have to reload it, as where if you do link a CAD file and move where the file is located, you need to find that again, so it's a little bit annoying. Most of the time I tend to import stuff at work because I'm going off CAD jobs that aren't going to change for what I need it for. For you guys, link CAD is probably the best option most of the time. So you've also got import GBXML files, so that's green building stuff. Never really used it, it's there. Insert from file is also really handy. So if you have a detail, if you remember, I need this random wet area detail and I did it in that job, you can actually import the line work from that into your current project. Then you've also got images which you can insert. So if you're ever unfortunate enough to be drawing up a floor plan from a realestate.com image, you can insert the image and trace around it. And then you've also got manage images there. The other thing is load family and load as group, which I'll run through when we start loading doors and windows into the project. So for this project, we're going to go link CAD. And this brings us to the link CAD formats dialog box. So if you guys want to find where your floor plan DWG file is, and don't click OK. So if you've all found that, Just a show of hands, who's found their... Cool. So most of you. So you've got a couple of options here for linking your CAD file. So current view only is exactly what it sounds like. It'll link it to the current view that you're looking at only and not to any other views. The jury's still out on how useful that is. You've also got colors, so you can preserve the colors from CAD, invert the colors, or say black and white. You can also import, specify which layers or levels you import. So it's either all visible or specify. So if you are importing surveyors CAD files, they have about 100 levels. So you might, 100 layers. So you might just say visible. They might not all be turned on and things like that. So makes it a little bit easier. For this one, we're just going to choose all. You've got import units. So this one we're just going to leave as auto detect. But sometimes you might need to know what the CAD file is drawn in. So if it's drawn to meters or inches, probably not inches, centimeters. Auto detect works most of the time, and you can also fix it after the fact. And then probably one to turn off if you're importing surveys is correct lines that are slightly off axes. So most surveys have got a crooked line on them. So if you untick that, so if you tick that, it might straighten them up, and then it might not be an accurate drawing. The other stuff here you've got is positioning. So you've got auto origin to origin, auto center to center, auto by shared coordinates, or manual origin or manual center. Generally easier to choose manual center if you don't know how the CAD file has been drawn. I think for this one it would be fine if we choose auto center to center, and then you can choose to place it at the ground, place it at level, or orientate it to view. So once, pretty much we're just going to leave the settings as they are, just to know that they're there, and just go open, and it'll think for a second, and does anyone have a guess what program this was exported out of? No, it was out of Revit. From what I've heard, or the feedback that I've got from engineers that get our CAD files at jobs, is Revit does export quite nicely to CAD still. The other thing with CAD as well is you've got, when you import CAD files, I should say, you have an option to query the layers. So it's up, if you click on the CAD, and then up in your options you have query. You can select lines and find out what layer they're on and things like that, which is quite handy if you're importing drawings that you're not quite sure what layers on what and things like that. If you want to turn them off, you can delete them, and you can also hide them in view. When you import CAD and use manual origin to origin, it'll come in as pinned. So if you try and move it, it should have come in as pinned. Why isn't it giving me this?
Center to center.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Should have. It will come in as pinned. So what you guys should do now is just pin it, so it doesn't accidentally move. As last week I said that you guys want to sort of draw in the middle of your elevation markers to try and negate some work you've got to do later. So the other thing I'm going to get you guys to do as well, and this is sort of, you're going to start driving on how you see things. So if you go onto the keyboard and type in V for Victor and V for vegetable, or V for Victor and V for Victor or G for grape and G for grape, sorry. This brings up your visibility graphics, or visibility and graphics override. So this controls how you see things in the view that you're in. So if you go down to imported categories, second from the end, you'll notice our basic floor plan now is there. Now this is what I tend to do. I tend to just come in here, click the top one, hold shift down, do a select, and I change it to magenta generally. So it's easier to see the difference between the walls that you're about to draw and other things. So just hold shift down and override the lines. You can choose whatever color you want. You probably want something that you can see. So yellow is probably a bad color, as where probably bright green is probably a bad one as well. That's not too bad. So you can do it that way. I tend to do it because I want to see the differences, or want to, if I've drawn over it or something. Let's just choose magenta. So if I just open a 3D view, you notice that it doesn't actually affect any other floor plan. And then the other thing as well, it's a bit hard to see. So when you don't select, you want to go across the imported categories, I think.
It doesn't give me lines, 3 lines.
If you override. So you go to the imported categories.
Oh, okay, so there.
There you go, plus. You'll hit plus on the other and get whatever you want.
Oh, so there.
Oh, colour. There you go.
Can everyone see this pink line behind our dashed line? That's sort of dashed as well. That's our CAD file. So ticking current view only can be good sometimes if you don't want to see it. I generally delete it or unload it from my file before I print it, so I don't see that, or hide it in the views. So just be aware, it comes up pretty much everywhere in every possible view, including the 3D perspectives that you can create when you're drawing your building. So has everyone got that in?
So you just want magenta or something like
So if you give it to your floor plan, ground floor plan, it won't apply it to any other view. So it's overriding the graphics in that view only, not in anything else. So if you go back to your overriding ground floor. So you can go to visibility graphics and override it. So go to import categories.
Yeah, downloading those, but we're using.
So, did anyone by mistake not go to under the visibility graphics, not go to imported category and have done it on their model categories? So if you just want to do that again and clear the override, otherwise everything you draw is going to be pink.
Sorry.
So if everyone just wants to go to their visibility graphics and have a quick look. No, you're good.
Just click all.
You might have had.
Just calling it ceiling ground.
So you have current view. I just need to show that.
so that's
Ceiling ground. Yeah.
So go to.
Actually, you've got ground.
You don't want to choose.
Yeah, say yes. Let me go to this one. Ceiling. And go to ground. And then we go.
对，就是单单只点你那个，
And
这个就可以。然后这里其实到一到三里面，
then you've got to find your thing.
应该也可以。
And then there's all this blah blah blah. And you said send it to center. And then we open it. And it pops in there. 2930. You got a good memory. What was 2730? Yeah, that's fine. No, mine's at 2930, but you might be right. 100%.
然后加就在这里加。
Yeah, so now you've got VB. You've VB. What was it? Ta-da! You go for the categories. And then you open up that boxy thing. No, not that. Left there. Then you select that. Click. We can go all the way down. Shift. There. Right, and then you go to lines. No, in the blue line. Yeah. Override. Go to colour. Then you pick your magic colour. Do what you want. Then magenta. Do what you want. Then I go back. Then okay. Now you got thick lines. Green siding. Well, I don't know. You need thick lines. Get over it.
Fortunately, it doesn't work if you
Sorry? I don't know.
So you've just changed my colours.
What are you doing? Changing the colours. You go okay. That's okay. That's the only thing I know.
So,
Sometimes.
because we're not following a PDF tonight, and you're just following my instruction, if you guys want to open up the 3D view, the default 3D view, and just chuck it on your other screen so you can see the building as we go, because that should, if you're making an error, it should let you pick it up really early.
Is it 3D?
So up in the quick access toolbar, you've got, I call it a kennel, it's supposed to be a house, I think, which opens up that default 3D view.
Oh yeah. How'd you get that section? I haven't got that section.
You should have.
Section, that line.
If you use the right template, you should. So, sections only showing.
Sorry?
Don't worry about it. You don't need it tonight.
We don't need it?
No.
Okay.
I think you're using the template again.
Is it start?
Wait,
Hotel start? Modern hotel start?
No, it's not that.
Here.
No, it's the new project with the architectural template. It's okay. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Actually, hang on.
Where, which one?
Hang on. What I'll do is I'll get everyone started and I'll come back and finish yours. Because it will matter. Because there's no brick near form in there. Yep. Okay. So, if you guys want to open up your floor plan again, we're going to start drawing our walls, but we have to do something before we do that. So, these walls in this project are 240 mil. So, in Revit, if you go architecture wall, like we were last week, down to your properties, we only have a brick veneer 250 steel or 250 timber. I'm going to let you guys choose if you want to do as timber construction or steel construction. Doesn't really matter for the purposes of this exercise. But we do need to change the thickness of the air gap in this project to make sure we're basically drawing what we've got the CAD file for. So to do this, you need to select the wall and then select edit type. And then it comes up with this dialog box which has got lots of information about the characteristics of the wall, the identity data and things like that. Don't really care about that stuff today. We want to click on the construction and then you've got structure and an edit box. So we click on edit. Sorry, forget that. We have to, so in Revit, you always want to, so 99 times out of 100, you want to duplicate an element that you're modifying. So if you're making a 920 door, you want to duplicate an 820 door, rename it 920, and then change the size. The one time out of 100 is when you don't, when you want to affect everything in the drawing or the job of that type. So in this instance, I'm not going to duplicate our brick veneer 250. I'm going to rename it 240 and change the structure because I don't want to have a brick veneer 250 construction in my job, sort of thing. So I'll just go rename here. I'll go to brick veneer 240 and go OK. And then you can go into edit structure and edit and just change the air gap from the second line down from 50 to 40 and go OK and OK. And you'll get used to pressing OK 3 or 4 times to get out of where you've gone into. I'll help you two guys in a minute. So what I'm going to get you guys to do now is we're going to draw around the exterior of the building. So what we need to do first is we just need to verify a few things. We want to make sure our height is connected to our ceiling level. So at the moment, when you start drawing a job, it'll be unconnected. Don't want an 8 meter high wall. So I'm going to choose ceiling level here. We're also going to change the location line of our wall to finish face exterior. Verify that we have change selected. Offset, we're going to leave it as. We're going to make sure radius is unticked and the join status is going to allow. So you'll also notice in your in your properties, your unconnected height goes up to 2730 now. Now, what you need to do now is select the outside points of your brick veneer wall around the building. So please don't do this. Does anyone see an issue with doing this sort of thing?
Not going to have a wall above the opening.
Close. Pretty close. You can't put a window into something that's not there because they're hosted elements. So please, I'm just going to delete this all. Trace over it and hide everything. It's easy to see it again after. So it's just a case of going around. You might have to zoom in occasionally to get the corner. The other thing as well, if you are struggling to get the corner, SE is snap end. So that will help you select the corners. So if you guys want to go around and draw the exterior walls, and hopefully when you've drawn your first one and you've looked at your 3D view on the other screen, you'll see if it's drawn up to the correct level. So you guys just want to close this without saving it. So go new. Choose the architecture template. Okay. And then go to elevation. Set up the elevation again.
What's timing? When I find out.
Go new.
Oh, it's like,
That's a good question.
Okay. And just opens that up.
It's a bit of pain because it's really accurate.
There it is, beautiful. Right, so now we've got to elevation.
When you're dimensioning, you can pick up the CAD file or any upper line. It's really annoying. So you need to look at here. So I'm just using the CAD file at the moment, which is temporarily hidden.
Ceiling. What was that?
So it has 90.02.
You're going to call it ceiling.
And the other giveaway.
Go to north.
See how it should be a straight line, but it gives you that sort of thing. So you got 89.89. That's all fine. So we click on that.
And call it ceiling and go to 27.
and similar situation happen, just change that.
Yeah, change the angle.
Was it 27?
You could also align. You could use the align tool to align it to the CAD as well, but because I couldn't see where it was. And then HR resource.
Was it 29 or 27:30?
27:30. Oh, 29:30, sorry. So it's 27:30 off of the.
What do you mean it's 27:30 off the ground?
So the ground is off 200 off of the.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because your ground floor is like floor level is
Oh, so
200
it's
off like bench level. So the
bench is the dirt.
dirt, yeah, essentially.
I call it dirt. It's just bench.
Bench level is anything on the term.
So then, we link the CAD, yeah?
Yep. You can run the CAD and just download, or
So,
save it to your USB, or. So if you guys have drawn your exterior walls, we might have a 10-minute break here. So you guys want to be back about 20 to 8, and we'll move on to doing our interior walls and that tonight as well. There's a couple.
No, I see.
There's one down this way. If you walk out on the stairs, there's probably is one downstairs too. If you walk out the doors, drop down the stairs, the doors are actually down that way.
yeah. Oh, you can leave that. It's just right here.
So everyone's got their external walls drawn now?
Yes.
And they've all checked a 3D view to make sure it's all good. It would look something like this if it was unconnected and...
Oh, nice.
So it's the beauty of having that 3D view on the other screen is you can notice that straight away without having to go to a different view, which is quite handy. Oops. So we're going to add our internal walls now. So if you guys want to use whatever stud version, if you use steel or timber, I'm going to use a 90 timber stud because that's what it is. So this one's a little bit trickier because it's not as easy to trace around to put in. So there's a couple of hints here. You may have already worked it out, but well, there's 2 hints. So I've chosen the right one to draw that one. The spacebar flips the wall construction, and escape once escapes you out of drawing that chain of wall. So you can stay in the wall tool, but it escapes out. So if I want to draw this wall here now, so I can hit the space bar and come across, and then hit escape once to come and draw this wall here. So you can change it to wall center line to draw this stuff. It will sort of pick up the center line of things. Again, draw over everything, even the doorways. To be honest, I generally just leave this on whatever else I've just used, whatever location line I've just used, and use the spacebar to flip it. I don't come up here and change it to a finish face interior and draw a wall, and then go finish face exterior to draw a wall. I'll just use the same one and draw it all, and use the spacebar to flip it. Sort of thing. So yeah, if you guys want to draw the internal walls now. So it's so you can see with a CAD, if you have a CAD file to draw a job from, it can be quite a quick exercise this way. And then I'll just check my 3D view. So I've got some internal walls now, which is all good. And they're all set to the correct height. I guess one of the benefits of having the levels now show in 3D is you can click on them, and then if you have anything going through it, you can also easily identify. When you draw walls as well, you've got the option to do a base offset or a top offset. So that can be plus or minus. And so if you have a parapet and you want to have it, let's say 300 mil because it works out to brick coursing let's say it did in some way, you could say draw this off 300 mil, and then when you go back into the wall tool and draw that wall, it will remember that. So at least if you check the 3D, you can just double check that sort of stuff. So sing out if you get an issue, and I'll come around and help.
I have an issue.
Yeah.
My wall is off the
Awesome.
because here I can't,
You do it
I
the
can't,
ceiling.
yeah, I can't
It's got
click
the-
this, this one comes
Yeah,
up.
so you draw off this side, you draw the ceiling.
Start there, finish facing exterior.
So, so tap, so hit color wall, hit tab, select the wall, then you come over here and change the now, so then go around with
So that's 90 or 70. Okay.
so just draw
Is it 70 or 90?
90.
90. Thank you.
And then, so you want to use to verify that we've got this split to rather than unpick it. So we can come over here. Yep. See how it's space bar. So I'd probably just go all the way through there and then try and draw them in big strings. Oh no, so we want to draw over the doors. Like you have that size. Yeah. Because you got the doors are hosted. Yeah. So doors are hosted, so they need to go against that wall. So, just to show of hands, who's done all their internal walls? So I know there's a couple of people still working through it. So I'll get you guys to put the doors in first. So I'm going to show you how to load door families, and then I'll get you guys. Then when everyone's sort of caught up, I'll get you guys to put in windows. So you go back to your ground floor plan. Go to architecture and build door. We're not going to use the doors that come in the project as a standard because they're the 813, 864, and 915 sizes, which aren't really standard. So if you guys want to go load family on the panel, and find doors, we're going to use the single timber frame AUS door. And open that one. So it comes up as an 820 single timber door frame. It's not going to quite work for some of these doors because there's not enough clearance in the hallway. But again, if you hover over a wall and hit the space bar, adjust the flip of the door or the swing of the door, and then click, and that places the door. So if you guys want to go ahead and do that. Again, If you get errors like this, don't worry about it. You can just keep going and move the door after the fact. So if you get the insert conflicts with joined wall, don't worry about it too much. You can move them after the fact. If you can't get them exactly right as the CAD, again, don't worry about it. You can move it after you've put them in. So you want to go to So this door family is just the general Revit content door family.
I seem to be getting the account load panel four.
Where were you loading it from? Here in component. So you've got architecture and then door. Yeah, and then load family. So doors can only be loaded in via the door tab and load family. Windows can only be loaded in via the window tab and load family, and components can only be loaded in via the component and load family. If you remember back to when I went through all the insert stuff and then load family was that last one on the very end that I said I'd cover later. This load family here lets you load all the families. It doesn't get it doesn't say a door needs to go via the doorway. You can load a door family in here, and then the next step you can load a window in that way. So this is the one I tend to use the most. Is like I have a keyboard shortcut at work, LF, load family takes me to that one, and it means I can load every kind of family I want into a project, and I don't have to use the door family or the door tool to load the door in that way. So we're going to use the door family and the window family tonight, but just keep in mind that's there, particularly if you're downloading stuff off the internet, and it comes up with an error saying you can't load it via this way. I can't remember the exact wording. Please try again, basically. So if you're downloading stuff off the internet, use the load family that way. So the two.
So can you just go through how we're doing it through from door, please?
So go on architecture, door, place door, and then load family, and then choose the doors. So as well, you guys can put in. I'm pretty sure it is the front door from your downloads, or
Is it single timber frame?
yep, AUS. Don't worry about the door swing does match because I updated the CAD didn't. And you can also load in that cavity slider internal door, which is probably the best one that I found for free on the internet. So don't try and load in the laundry door with awning window or whatever it is, because that's actually a window family. I always struggle to remember which one's which until I get an error, but I remember tonight. Because you haven't got a wall there. So that wall needs to come. So you just scan and miss the wall there as well. Just select the wall.
On the other wall, go on the other side of the wall.
And drag that blue dot into the other wall.
That's an
And then you
external
just create another wall there.
Yeah,
So the doors,
yeah, I know the,
so there's no, like, the doors need to go on the host, and there's no host where the thing is. So that's okay.
Hey, let's start up an architecture business. Clear it. Oh, are you inspired? Oh yeah, okay. Load family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, so it's download. Yeah.
Doors.
The window. front
Yeah.
door. So where do you put the download tab?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you go
Did you move?
you download. You go actually download it. So go back to so you just click on that and then go back. So you download those three. So just click on that one. And the next one, just save it. Yeah. Save it.
Got a sliding door on the outside.
So you just copy those to your. So you go, if you save those to your USB, and then if you go back to Revit and find your USB, that should be there as well.
What's the outside door?
Which
Is
entry
there
door?
Yeah.
That's the one. That's one we downloaded. So one of the families that you downloaded.
For the laundry door.
It's not the laundry door. It's the entry door with side light, I think.
But we can't insert
the laundry one.
Yeah.
No, because that's a window. That's why I use the load family one.
I don't understand.
Specifically how to draw things, because
No, so you want to draw that wall all the way across.
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And then it'll cut it.
And then it'll cut it. Yeah. So again, the doors are a hosted element. They need to go into a host. So if there's no host there, they're not going to go there.
Right. So I can just extend my sound by clicking on the
Yeah.
So there's one where
Yeah. Or you could. Yeah.
Oh.
Or you could use the trim or trim extend tool. It's up to you.
Oh. Sorry, can you say that again about which one we
So,
downloaded?
so the entry door.
Yeah.
So you go door, load family. The entry door is the BPA entry door. I don't know why it's got the percent in there.
Sorry, where is it?
That's that BA. So you go, it's that one. Click drop down.
There it is there. Wow.
Oh, so go load family. Entry door.
Ta-da.
The entry door or the laundry door? The laundry one's a window, so I'll run through that with everyone. So the entry door
That's a window. We haven't done that one yet. We've actually, yeah, but these other doors. That's right. And that one there, single timber frame Australia. There it is there. I think it it's really not. It really collapsed.
So these are the window sizes, so it's height times width. So you go and edit type, duplicate it.
You need to probably go back to your walls. Wall tool. Then maybe go onto that, select it, delete it. Yeah. So it's in the wall. Yeah, the wall. The rest is the wall. So if you then. Yeah, but yours is heated because it's a loaded and resident. You what?
下载的东西呢？
So you need to duplicate it again, renaming it, resize it.
So should I get out of the file and just start again?
So you can go edit type
Yeah,
again,
especially
so
for
it says it's that
the ones that all went through.
duplicate it, change it to heading, okay, change size. Pre-rotated this.
You can move it by changing this.
And you can load different styling and have that across the back.
Don't do core cinema, do something else.
Sort of thing.
Oh, remember how that ended up with you last time?
不是我们在建呢。
You wasn't in it. Okay, now, hang in there. To do is really important.
Computer.
Yeah. Did you think what?
So if I can get everyone's attention, so to line up the doors where they go exactly, and sorry, with the CAD file underneath, you can use wireframe, but we also need to change our detail level to medium. So now you can sort of see where some windows are and where some doors are in the project. So wireframe in 3D looks really trippy. And particularly once you add a roof and ceilings and other things into a project, trying to work out what line is which line is a bit annoying. So if you, in your floor plan now, you should be able to align all the doors or move the doors to where they are in the CAD. Sort of thing. So I've and then we're going to go through and do our, I'm not going to worry about putting the rest of my doors in. So we're going to go through and do windows now. Has everyone done their doors? Understands putting doors in. Again, like this project in particular is not about accuracy, it's just about the process. We're putting stuff in. Don't worry about if it's not 100% right. Again, it's just about how to load stuff and do stuff. So I've got most of my doors in. So we're going to go on to our windows now. So the last window we're going to load is our dogleg awning door window combination to our laundry. The first window we're going to load into is, I'm going to let you guys select the style of window you want to insert. So if you go architecture, so Revit will put a fixed window in, and looks like this project only has, well, it has more than one size. The fixed window is okay for fixed windows. We're going to load family. Does anyone, so if you go load family, everyone's probably at where they've loaded in their doors and windows, or sorry, their entry door and cavity slider. While we're here, we may as well load in our laundry door, which is that laundry door and window. We're not going to place that in anywhere at the moment though, so we'll go back to load family. And then to get back to the Revit content, it's the metric library. So on the left hand side, you have a couple of favorites. So if you have a jobs file at work or something like that, you can add that file to here. I have our content at work saved here, the jobs, and things like that. Just means, particularly seeing now Revit will load you back into where you last loaded something from. They added that in 2018, and I thought it was a good thing until I started using it and worked out it's really annoying when you've got to go back to somewhere, particularly like the Autodesk content file where you might not know where that is on your computer. But that's the metric library here. That will take you back to all the Australian content. So it's probably on most of your screens, it's down the bottom somewhere. So I've just clicked and dragged that up to the top so when I load something, it's straight at the top, ready for me to use. So we're going to go down to Windows. So Revit has a vast array of windows to select from. I wouldn't say any of them are particularly great. I would probably get some like Bradnam's or, I'm trying to think who else. Trend have some Revit families and things like that. So they're more Australian made content and things like that. I'd probably access those if I was using Windows in my own business to draw from. So I'm going to let you choose either an awning window, a casement window, double hung window, or a sliding window. Doesn't really matter which one, just select one. I'm going to choose sliding for this job and go open. So now you get another dialog box with windows. So with doors, it loaded it. There's only 6 or 7 door sizes, particularly in that timber frame AOS window door family. So there's like a 620, 720, 820, and 920, and that one had an 820 existing and I think a 720 existing off the top of my head. As we're Windows, there is probably any size imaginable, really, if a customer's willing to pay for a size or whatever. There is any size available. So Revit has some rather weird sizes again, and rather weird. Does everyone agree it's height by width for the windows, not width by height? Yeah, cool.
So it goes both ways, isn't it?
Oh, I know. This week does my head in because I'm trying to remember what I do at work, and so most times, and then also, I've always used a reference. You've got to get to the tree before you can climb it, as a map reference. For all those people that didn't go to Scouts, that's how you read a map. So just choose one size. It doesn't matter. We're going to edit type and duplicate it and make it the sizes we want. So again, it doesn't really matter which size we choose. So we're going to go edit type, and because I've only got one screen, I'm going to try and shrink this a little bit for you. So I'll start at this living room window. So it needs to be 1800 high by 2410 wide. So I'm going to duplicate it, type in 1800 by 2410. And go OK. And then I'm going to change the dimensions here to suit the window size that I've got selected. And go OK. And then I can place the window in my project. And then, unfortunately, it is going to be a case of edit type, duplicate, 1800 by 1210. Okay, I can change the width here. And okay, and then I can place that window in. So it's just a case of edit type, duplicate to the size you want, and then put it in. And around the back, you can change the window style if you want as well, so it looks a bit different. Most people tend to have a fancier window on the front, so like an awning, and then the cheaper windows on the back of the house, sort of thing. So, or you could go back to load family and load a different style for each window and just change it to the size that's on the screen. So I'll come around and help anyone that is needs anything or needs any assistance?
So the measurements on here are width by height?
Height by width.
Height by width.
So 1800 high by 2410.
When you're entering the window, is the way to get through it easier?
Dimensions.
Sliding.
Dimensions.
Your what?
Unless you've got
Oh, there they are.
it's just putting all the boundaries in. So that AUS one's pretty good. It's really standard sizes.
Yeah.
It's better one. Like if you yeah. All the stuff you're accessing here, you can download when you download that. So you're not installing it on your so should download it, yeah, installing it on
Yeah, I mean, I just think that yours had.
I think they are.
Go back to this.
It's American decimals. Because it was divided by 11 and 8.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Oh, metric library and then one.
You got to
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, they're away.
Sliding one.
And it's not a sliding one.
So, yeah, you can't do
L or Q.
Yeah. So the thing when you put the windows in Revit, so Cecil's still right. And
So it would go at random, because these were all at.
yeah, so
These were really low.
might be go might be all the windows which is really good. Is that the consistent one? Like, if the window's 600 high, you still want it at 2100.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to show you the easy way to not easy way. So I'm going to put another level in, and then align everything along it so it's going up and down for you. But yeah, so
yeah, I'm just playing around. So I just so every time you see one of these 824
yeah,
you just type in.
so you edit type, sorry, duplicate type, duplicate.
You have to change it to after, and then right this and then the same one.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. But if it takes it, yeah. Oh yeah, it does.
Like if you had if you had your own family, you can just add the sizes to standard size.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You want to make sure you duplicate it though. If you don't duplicate it, you've got to change that one window to different sizes.
Okay.
So you duplicate so you have different types of window.
Yeah.
Just different
So it
sizes.
just goes to yeah, 1800. So is that the old one, doesn't it?
No, duplicating just creates another type.
Yeah.
So yes. The duplicating is an easy step to this too.
Mm.
So obviously, if you created your own families for Windows or downloaded Radnam's window families, it should come with standard brick coursing sizes and things like that in the family, so you don't have to repeat this process too often. But it's just to know it's there, and just so you guys can practice it. How's everyone going with putting windows in? You're around to the back side of the house now. So the sliding door that's also in there is actually a door, not a window. So you'll need to load that door in. So I think it's just the sliding door 2 panel AOS.
Oh, is that where it is?
It's under a door, yeah.
Oh no. Can I literally delete, for example, this sliding door? Actually, I added the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can I literally just delete that one?
Sliding
Yeah.
door.
You can delete it anywhere.
Yeah.
It will. Oh, nice.
It's probably the best thing about Revit is you don't have to think about it being deleted or adding it to other views. I honestly don't know if I'd be a drafts person if I had to use CAD. I probably would have lost it by now.
The sliding door belongs to window or the door?
It's a door.
Oh.
Yeah, I always get confused because I did 3 years as an energy assessor, so it was glass, which is a window, and a glazing calculator, so it's, yeah.
You have to go to metric fibre.
Yeah, to go back to if you've been out of it.
So what did you call, which one did you choose?
4. It's a sliding door 2 panel.
Oh, sliding.
Down the very bottom. AOS, not 2.
Sliding door 2 panel was. like a window there.
You just have to delete the window.
Sliding door two-tone. Kitchen. It's over there. That one there, 21 by 400. That one. That's the sliding door.
Back in a sec.
What else is there? I don't know. Yep, no, that's it. Why doesn't it get rid of that? I think it's something to do with the cat. There's the cat template underneath that you're drawing on top of. Somehow you might have to get rid of that. So you've brought in a 2D, and now we're drawing on top of it. And then maybe there's a way to get rid of it later once you've got it straight through. I don't know. It's a wild guess.
Yeah. These guys, that's the first number on those is a door. First number is a fire. Second number is a lid.
Yeah. So we've got this door. And then that's the same thing with those pieces.
Oh, I remember the wall was the same as the doors, they need to be all solid, otherwise it's not going to be solid.
Yes, we need to draw your wall through this one.
Yeah, that's actually also a sign.
You said it's like the first number is the
Yes.
yeah, that's right. No, it's not for this one, so have one. You want the lower level
Yeah,
for
this
it,
one
the
that you
lower
get
level is
from
different as well.
Oh no, so it's not on
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe I didn't. Oh, it's,
Maybe you just put them that way.
well, I'll stick with it.
Yeah, so sometimes the default, when you change it, the default head height changes,
Oh, okay.
which don't worry about it. It's just a flaw in the floor.
So that will,
Yeah, we're going to fix that anyway.
alright.
Kevin,
Yeah.
I can't get this laundry arrangement in.
Yeah.
It's a door, isn't it?
No, it's a window.
Oh, it is a
Yeah, I know. I don't know who made the family, but
because I've imported it.
yep, so it should be. Yeah, there you go.
There it is,
I don't know what size it is. 21 high. So everyone's got some windows in there, and obviously most of their doors. that's that one you downloaded. But that's okay.
On that one, all that front door, those you got in
They're the ones on the loan site.
there.
So, as some of you have probably noticed, when you've checked your 3D view, your window head height is either all over the place, like mine is at the back. At the front, mine isn't because I've just copied the same window and it's kept the same head height. But there's not enough room at the moment to put a lintel above our windows or anything like that. So I'm going to open up an elevation view. Probably we'll go for our east elevation view because that's got the most windows in it at the moment. So I'm going to go back to architecture and down to datum. I'm going to put a level in. I'm going to untick make a plan view. And I'm just going to draw a level in anywhere at the moment. So sort of you can put it in and then you can fix it up after the fact. If you've forgotten to untick make plan view, it's not a problem. You can delete the floor plans after the fact as well. So if I don't want my ceiling plan to have any floor plans, I can delete it here and my thing goes black. So we're going to use the align tool now.
So can you just, where did you do that from?
What?
That bit there.
So architecture level.
Oh, level. I haven't got that.
You should do.
Oh, level, sorry. Yes, yes. Yep.
So once you've all done that,
Thank you.
so we're going to use the align tool now under modify tab. So under the align tool, you get an option to have multiple alignment. So we're going to select multiple alignment at the moment. So we're going to choose our level now as our first reference plane. So that's where we want to move everything to. And then we're going to choose, if you zoom in and move your windows down, you'll notice that you get a little padlock that comes up. And the padlock tends to stay in the same position it first appeared in. So when you lock your windows to a level, that means if the level moves up or down, the window will go up or down with it. So I only lock windows to this level, not doors, because if a door goes up or down, you either need to add or subtract height to the door, sort of thing. And generally most door families have got the head height set to the height of the door anyway, automatically. So it's just a case of going along the building and selecting the level. You can also, if you forget to tick multiple alignment as well, you can also keep going. You just have to go back and tick, select the level line as well. So you can do that around the entire building now. Make sure you hit the padlock, because if you don't hit the padlock and move the level, it's not going to move. And then once you've locked everything, you can, to verify that you've locked things, put a dimension onto our level that we've created, and I'm going to make mine 2322 high with a window head height. And then you can check a 3D view and just pan around your model just to make sure everything's gone up, just to double check.
I've got that line in.
Yep. So select your level first. So you're already in the line tool. So hit, go and undo it. So go control. Control Z on those as well.
Yeah.
So go line. So the line tool, you want to multiple, just verify multiple alignments already selected.
Yeah.
So the first click is where you want things to end up.
Yeah.
And then the second click is what you want to move to end up at the point.
So that's my first
That's
click.
your first click, and then you can go to your window.
There.
Zoom in a little bit. You can get the top.
That bit?
Yep.
Oh.
And see how you get the padlock here.
Yeah.
Lock it. So it's constraining it to that level.
This?
Yeah.
Why is the padlock over there?
It just puts it wherever. So if you click this one, it'll probably be in the same spot.
So do I still need to click
No,
that line?
because you've clicked multiple alignment, it doesn't exit out of that. So yeah, the padlock hasn't moved.
Okay.
So it's just a case of going along and doing everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, that one. I would agree. It's like, yeah. We'll go if we use the roof tool, we're going to take the image straight away. If you double click on walls, it'll take you into sketch mode as well. So it's an easy way to do that. I reckon you've done the wrong lines. So we just leave it on there.
This one,
1800. So you can practice moving your window head height up and down as well if you want. Close, no. Oh, that's the wrong size.
everything is actually wrong with my window, so I can look at here.
I
don't know what I did. I selected something and then I undid it and then everything just, I couldn't go back to what I did.
So, edit height, duplicate.
Okay,
Yeah, so the same we did with the wall before, so edit height, duplicate. So it's probably easier if we go back to
Yeah.
So the window's in there, so you go edit height, drag that over here so you can bring in the sizes. Believe it or not, I think I put this K file up 6 months ago. The previous K file we had the sizes up. You had to measure it for one of them. That's too much hard work on a Thursday night. So yeah, edit height, duplicate, go 1800 by 24. Enough cameras on, so that's yeah. One name it works, and then you can go.
How do you know the sizing?
So that's
So
that's
because of
the
what size it is, we just have to do it here.
yeah. So we go, and then to see how that now sort of matches the CAD file. So it's just a case of going around the building and doing that now. That's okay. Oh, yeah. So if you just, so the easiest way to fix this is very easy to be honest. So when you, I think when you drew it, as unconnected. So it must have closed the walls right. Those walls right. Yeah, so you just need to, you can change that to hand.
You want me to body?
Sorry?
So do I need to
No, so it's whatever size. Like the head height's a consistent one, and then the window sizes change, sort of thing.
You know what I mean? Does it change in the downward side? So you wanna fix this one, down one, for all the windows
Yeah.
around the house, and the bottom side will change.
Yeah. So if you align it to that window reference level, and it's 1200 high, just be whatever.
Towards the ground.
Yeah, it'll be whatever.
Have I got two doors there?
No, I think you have the cab door and then the DWG door and then your doors. Double arrow.
This one?
Yep, should flip it.
Oh, okay. This is giving me, in here, it's saying there's conflicts
Yeah, because you've got 2 or 3 windows over each other.
on top of each other.
Yeah. So we just delete those.
Here.
It's probably easier to do it in your 3D. So if you go back to your 3D,
Yeah.
just go HL. And you can just select and delete from there. So has anyone put down the back the correct window sizes? So I think on the back of the floor plan we had, so we have 1500 by 1450, a 610 by 610, and then a 610 by 1210, and align them to our window head height level of either, in this instance, 2100 or 2322. It's going to end up with the same result. Does anyone have a guess why I can't see the windows that I put in before? Why that might be? No. Okay. So I think this is probably going to be the last sort of confusing bit I'll leave you with tonight, because I still struggle to wrap my head around it sometimes. So in Revit, again, because we're building a model and our floor plans are just cuts through the model, and our cut plane is set to 1200. So anything above or below that cut plane of 1200 that doesn't get cut isn't visible. So if I remember where it is, so we have a view range. So in here, you guys might want to have a look on your screen, so on properties, because it might be a little bit clearer. You scroll down to extents, and then you've got view range.
Yep.
Then open that up, and then go show. So what's happening is our primary top range is number 1. Number 2 is our primary cut plane. So that's where the cut is through the model. Number 3 is our view depth. So that's how far you can see. So if you want to have a look at services, it's a little bit different. Most of the architectural stuff, you don't tend to change this too much. Our primary range is number 5. Our view depth is number 6. And our view range is number 7. So basically, if you have a look over here in our primary range, our top of our view is set to 2300. So if there was anything above 2300 on our floor plan, so a ceiling mounted rain head shower outlet that's above 2300, you're not going to see on your floor plan. Unless you do something. You can see it. There's ways to see it. So our cut plane at the moment is set to 1200. So I wouldn't suggest that you guys just change the cut plane to, I'm going to say 2000 to see our windows. Because if you go to 2000 and you've got something that's lower, like 1200 seems to be a pretty good medium. So I'm going to do that. So we're going to choose under view, plan views, plan region. So if you look at the video of plan region, that allows you to manipulate the view cut or the cut plane and the view stuff just in that box. So this also introduces us to a new concept as well, is our sketch area. So you'll notice that sort of stuff gets greyed out. Some of you may have accidentally found yourself in Sketch by accident. You also have a big green thing at the top. You have a big cross and a big tick. So for this one, I'm just going to draw a rectangle here and hit the tick, and then come over to view range and select, I'm going to type in the cut plane of 2000, and now I get to see my windows. So if you guys want to have a try at that, if you've got some windows that you can't see, so you'd do the same thing if you had a low light window. Where have I seen a low light window? I think the cellist had a low light window under their TV cabinet. I'm not quite sure why you do it, because I'm pretty sure all the rain would splash up off the paving and it'd be filthy 99% of the time. But you do that there. So that's quite an important tool to know it's there, because the project will probably start next week. Has the same scenario come up where the toilet window is small, and once you put it up to the correct head height, it disappears off the floor plan. But funnily enough, if I had tag on placement on, the tag would still be there, but you wouldn't be able to see the window. And you check the elevation, but you can't see it on the floor plan. Sorry, I'll run through create that sketch again because I went through it really quickly. So I drew the rectangle, and then to complete the sketch, you have to hit the green tick. You can also change the view range while you're in the sketch. It just won't update until you hit the tick. So I delete that entirely and go through that again. So go plan views, plan regions, do a rectangle, change the cut region or cut plane to 2000. I'm just taking a guess. I'd be pretty sure that it'd be cut at 2000, sort of thing. The other thing as well is I couldn't say 2400. It tells me I'd have to raise the top clip plane, the top of the plane, sort of thing. So just sort of choose it between what's on the screen. So you've got 2.3 or 2 or 0. So I just go 2000 and apply it. And then it's not till you hit the tick, it actually completes and shows you the stuff above.
Where's that sketch?
So you go view. Plan views.
他说有的时候那个比如说这个门这个太低的地方，我看起来是。
Oh no. So you want to change? So you change that to 2000.
2000.
Yeah. And then draw a box. And then insert the workflow. Let's scroll down to again. And change that one to back to 1200. The issue is if you change the entire drawing up to 2 meters.
Which is what I did for.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing that, please.
Yeah. Can present a few issues, particularly if you're showing cabinetry and things like that.
So let me just understand this. So this cut, all we're doing is specifying what 2 levels we're looking at.
Yeah. So the cut plane, 1200 from here, and then if you want to see, let's say if you want to see that livable thing on the floor plan, you change the cut plane up. It's not just a small window in here, I can say that it's. Or if you wanted to see.
I'm not sure if that is.
原来是这样的。
That's okay.
But, yeah. So if it was a window up here.
Yeah, if you had a highlight window, something above that cut plane sort of thing.
原来是这样的。然后plan 上面有可能，plan 上面有可能看不到那个window，因为你还看到那个墙。
only floor. So that plan region is only floor plan. You can't do that in an elevation or section. So it's just in the floor plan.
What's the normal silver one?
So it's normally it's normally head height.
Hang on, so there's
So I can call it like that. So 21.
看到，但是你看到的不是实际砌到的东
So
西。
you know, if you're going to go out with your house, all the windows up here are the same, but down here they vary. So yeah, it's just the default of the family. Yeah. So it's weird. Yeah. So you can put that level in as well. So there's two ways to do it. I have built windows, window head height like 5,000 in by mistake, or like 21. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
For example, we create the plan range from
Yep.
here. So also we can copy this one to here. Yeah.
You can also have more than one sketch in that plan region. So probably the last thing I'll leave you with tonight, and not that I've got an example, but under edit if you go back to edit boundaries, how you edit the sketch again. So if I had a window over here, let's say for instance, and a window here, you can have more than one sketch in this plan region, and then they all get applied by the same rules. So if you had 2 or 3 windows up on an upper floor that are above the cut plane because of roofs or whatever, that's how you to show them rather than drawing. That's how I would show them. I just do one sketch rather than 3 sketches because then I only have to change one sketch, like one height after the fact, or rather than 3. The other thing that's a bit annoying with sketch or plan regions is you can right click and hide them in view by category or element. They don't print, but if you just want to clean up your drawing when you're looking at it on the screen, you can hide them. The other thing you can't do, which is generally I get stuck because they're hidden and I've forgotten they're there, is you can't have them intersecting, which may seem like generally like on an upper floor of a house and it's got quite a bit of roof to wall scenario happening. I generally use a plan region to show the rest of the roof because the roof will get cut off at 1200 even though the roof goes up a little bit more. I can't really quickly draw you a scenario of that sort of thing, but I use a plan region to show roofs on the upper floor if it gets cut off by the cut plane because the ridge might come up a bit further than the cut plane. But that's what I do at work. So yeah, that's what I'll leave you on tonight is our cut plane and our view range and things like that. It's probably the hardest thing to wrap your head around in Revit because it's just a different way of thinking. This diagram here explains it pretty well. And just be thankful that you don't have to touch it most of the time. It's only, like I think for some reason at my last job it was set to 1500, not by me, and I think it's set to 1700 and 1500 upper floor at work for 2 stories. So I don't know. Revit out of the box is 1200. 1200 seems to be fine, sort of thing. So next week I'll just cover off. So if you can save this file to your desktop or USB or hard drive, because we're going to use this file next week. So we're going to add a roof, and we're going to add a floor, and we're going to also, so we're going to do 2 roof styles, and we're going to add some columns as well, just to finish off this portico, and we'll probably add some rooms to it as well. You can see in the CAD file it's got room names as well. So have a nice weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week.